The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This simple yet profound statement captures one of the deepest spiritual truths that humanity has grappled with for centuries. What we consistently think about does not merely pass through us, it becomes us. Our thoughts are not harmless, fleeting whispers of the mind. They are subtle forces that shape the very texture of our inner world. Over time, they seep into our emotions, influence our actions, mold our character, and ultimately color the state of our soul. In the spiritual sense, the soul can be understood as the essence of who we are, the quiet observer behind our personality, the silent witness to our experiences, the enduring presence that remains unchanged while our body ages and our circumstances shift. Though the soul itself may be eternal and pure in its origin, our conscious experience of it is filtered through the mind, and the mind, left undirected, becomes a canvas upon which every repeated thought leaves its stain. To say that the soul becomes dyed suggests a process that is gradual but lasting. When cloth is dipped into dye, the color does not appear instantly in its deepest form. It takes repeated immersion for the fabric to fully absorb the pigment. Likewise, the soul does not change because of a single thought. It changes because of patterns, those silent, habitual ways of thinking that repeat day after day, often unnoticed. Fear, resentment, envy, love, gratitude, compassion, each thought carries a certain vibrational tone. The more we dwell in one of these mental states, the more deeply its color saturates our being. Spiritually, this means that the quality of our inner life determines the quality of our outer experience. A person who constantly entertains thoughts of anger begins to see hostility everywhere. Neutral situations are interpreted as threats. Innocent remarks feel like insults. The world begins to appear harsh, unfair, and adversarial, not necessarily because it is, but because the mind has been conditioned to perceive it that way. Over time, this perception becomes reality for that individual, not because reality itself has changed, but because the soul has been dyed in the color of suspicion and bitterness. Conversely, when one cultivates thoughts of kindness, patience, and understanding, the same world appears different. Challenges are seen as opportunities for growth. People are viewed with empathy rather than judgment. Even suffering can be approached with dignity and purpose. The soul, having absorbed the hues of compassion and hope, begins to radiate those qualities outward. Life feels lighter not because it has become easier, but because the inner lens through which it is viewed has transformed. This insight points to an important spiritual responsibility. We are the custodians of our own minds. We may not always control the events that happen to us, but we have a profound influence over the way we interpret them. Every interpretation gives rise to a thought, and every thought contributes a drop of color to the soul. To live unconsciously, allowing thoughts to run unchecked, is to permit random dyes to stain our spiritual fabric. Some of these dyes may be dark fear of failure, regret over the past, anxiety about the future, resentment toward others. Left unattended, they can overshadow the natural luminosity of the soul. Spiritual traditions across cultures have long emphasized the importance of mental discipline for this very reason. Meditation, prayer, contemplation, and mindfulness are not merely relaxation techniques. They are methods for observing the mind and choosing which thoughts deserve to remain. When we sit quietly and watch our thoughts without attachment, we begin to notice their transient nature. We see that thoughts are like clouds passing through the sky of consciousness. They come and go, but they do not define the sky itself. In this realization lies freedom. If thoughts are not inherently us, then we have the power to let go of those that do not serve our highest good. We can acknowledge fear without allowing it to dominate our perception. We can notice anger without becoming consumed by it. Each time we choose not to identify with a destructive thought, we prevent another drop of its dye from staining the soul. However, spirituality is not about suppressing negative thoughts or pretending they do not exist. Such denial only drives them deeper into the subconscious, where they continue to exert influence without our awareness. Instead, it is about meeting every thought with understanding and discernment. When a thought arises, whether it is loving or fearful, we can ask ourselves, does this thought align with the kind of soul I wish to cultivate? Does it bring clarity or confusion, peace or turmoil, connection or separation? By repeatedly choosing thoughts that reflect truth, compassion, and wisdom, we begin to infuse our inner being with those qualities. Gratitude, for instance, is a particularly powerful dye. When we make a habit of appreciating what we have, rather than focusing on what we lack, our perception of life shifts dramatically. Even in difficult circumstances, we can find small blessings, a supportive friend, a moment of beauty, a lesson learned through hardship. Each acknowledgement of gratitude adds warmth to the soul's palette, gradually transforming its overall tone. Similarly, forgiveness acts as a cleansing agent, removing the darker stains of resentment and regret. Holding on to past grievances keeps the soul tethered to old wounds, allowing the colors of anger and bitterness to deepen over time. Forgiveness does not mean condoning harmful actions. Rather, it means releasing the emotional burden they carry. It is an act of liberation for ourselves as much as for others. When we forgive, we create space for lighter hues, understanding, peace, and acceptance to take their place. Love, perhaps the most luminous of all dyes, has the capacity to transform the soul in profound ways. Not merely romantic love, but the broader love that encompasses empathy, kindness, and a genuine wish for the well-being of others. When our thoughts are guided by love, even ordinary interactions become opportunities for spiritual growth. A smile offered to a stranger, patience extended to someone who is struggling, compassion shown to ourselves. In moments of failure, each of these acts reinforces a pattern of loving thought. Over time, these patterns solidify into character. Character, in a spiritual sense, is the accumulated result of countless thoughts and choices. It is the color that remains when all external circumstances are stripped away. When adversity strikes, it reveals the true hue of the soul, whether it has been dyed in fear or faith, selfishness or generosity, despair or resilience. Importantly, this process is ongoing. The soul is not dyed once and for all. It is continually absorbing new shades. This means that transformation is always possible. No matter how deeply ingrained certain thought patterns may seem, they can be changed through conscious effort and persistent practice. A person who has spent years dwelling in negativity can gradually cultivate optimism. One who has been overwhelmed by self-doubt can learn to nurture confidence and self-compassion. The key lies in consistent attention to the mind's contents. Spiritual growth, then, becomes a matter of intentional coloring. Each day presents an opportunity to choose which thoughts we wish to immerse ourselves in. Do we focus on what is wrong, or on what can be made right? Do we dwell on past mistakes, or on future possibilities? Do we interpret challenges as punishments, or as invitations to evolve? These choices may seem small in the moment, but their cumulative effect is immense. Just as a single brushstroke contributes to a painting, each thought contributes to the overall portrait of the soul. Over weeks, months, and years, the dominant tones become unmistakable. A life lived in gratitude feels different from one lived in complaint. A mind trained in compassion responds differently from one accustomed to judgment. Ultimately, the spiritual journey is not about escaping the world, but about seeing it clearly. And clarity arises when the mind is no longer clouded by destructive patterns of thought. When the soul is dyed in the colors of truth, love, and understanding, our perception becomes more aligned with reality as it is, rather than as our fears or desires distort it. In this way, the statement that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts serves as both a warning and an invitation. It warns us that careless thinking can gradually darken our inner world, limiting our ability to experience peace and joy. But it also invites us to become conscious artists of our own spiritual lives, selecting thoughts that uplift and empower us. Every moment offers a new dip into the dye of consciousness. The question is, what color will we choose?